Hello everyone, I hope you're having a great day today. Welcome to the Film Insight channel. For today's video, we're going to cover some more hotels featured on Hotel Hell and reveal if they're still open. So, without further ado, let's get right into the content, guys. Lakeview Hotel. Being an adults-only hotel, restaurant, and ice cream parlor, Lakeview is owned by Brent and Afni McDonald. Ever since their business took a severe hit as a result of local bushfires, they've been losing $30,000 a month. Really desperate for some help, they reach out to Gordon Ramsay and the Hotel Hell team in hopes that they could turn things around. When Ramsay arrives at the hotel, he waits for the advertised valet parking, however, Brent offers to park for him instead. Upon entering, the famous chef is extremely disturbed by the abundance of dust and cobwebs that are spread all over the place. Brent expresses that since he went on a holiday to Mexico for 3 weeks, they've been closed and have no ice cream for him to sample. This clearly disappoints him even further. Hoping that he could at least try some good food, Chef Ramsay visits the restaurant and orders some burgers. Once they come back with his order, the patties are dry and it becomes increasingly obvious that they're using frozen meat. Apparently, Brent expresses that there's no such thing as fresh burgers in the area, so Ramsay goes to a competing restaurant and shows him that they aren't as mystical as he makes them seem. Later on, the Hotel Hell host heads to his room and uses a UV light to reveal a collection of stains and fluids on the duvet and sheets. Nasty. Again, Brent makes a claim that he can't back up, saying that the sheets were cleaned a week ago, which is obviously not true. Ramsay eventually gathers the staff and some locals who all have negative things to say about Lakeview. Following this wake-up call, Chef Ramsay began to clean, revamp, and transform the building to ensure its success. Sadly, after the filming was done, Brent went back to his old ways and the reputation was as horrible as ever. Lakeview hasn't followed any of Gordon's pieces of advice. They even reversed the menu he proposed since it supposedly wasn't doing well. Somehow, the hotel is still up and kicking, but the reviews on Yelp are very mixed. Some love the atmosphere, while others complain about discrimination and loud noises. If we're being honest, it's long overdue for this business to close down. Landau's Mohican Castle. Mother and son Marta and Jimmy sold their printing company to purchase a 1,000-acre private estate worth $6 million, which they would turn into a hotel. After the hotel's restaurant tragically burned down in 2008, things only went downhill, which called for the help of someone experienced like Gordon Ramsay. Awestruck upon his arrival by the castle and grounds, Ramsay meets with a worker named Crystal, who helps him check in. Around him was nothing but dust, especially on the wine and beer fridge and the ancient television in the reception area. Crystal reveals that while Marta and Jimmy own the place, they have no experience when it comes to running a hotel before the castle. Admittedly, Ramsay thinks the view from one of the towers is absolutely beautiful, but it's tainted with mounds of dead flies and cigarette butts, which they've probably never even tried to discard. Later, meeting with Marta herself, he finds out that the hotel is worth only $2 million now and that she's the only one doing all the work. She even expresses that she has to do the ordering for the kitchen, despite the fact that Jimmy is the restaurant manager. Ramsay reveals that he's invited a bride and groom to get married with 100 guests in the hotel within the coming days. When the couple arrive to see the venue beforehand, they're disappointed that there aren't any samples for food. The linen is mismatched and chairs are stained. Forcing Jimmy to give the couple a tasting, he makes an overcooked filet mignon, slimy salmon, and a chicken dish caked in cheese. Discouraged, Ramsay reassures the couple that things will improve the next time they come, which puts a lot of pressure on him. Despite having his work cut out for him, Ramsay was able to make some valuable changes to the castle. Giving the hotel a cleanup, a huge makeover, and revamping the menu, things were going in the right direction. Not only were the bride and groom impressed when they returned, they branded the service as phenomenal and perfect. At the end of things, Ramsay tells Jimmy to step up a little bit so his mother doesn't have to do everything, and he promises to stay on track. Since the Hotel Hell host visited, there have been an increase in bookings, the kitchen has been reorganized, and they have a new head chef. Jimmy kept up with his promise and became more responsible, which allowed for Marta to focus on other things. Receiving 3.5 stars on Yelp, the castle is praised for its beautiful scenery, but many complain about the pricing. Angler's Lodge. Dave and Didi, a husband and wife team, saw land for sale next to the great fishing spots and decided to build the Angler's Lodge. It was the perfect spot for Dave since he could fish on the water in his free time alongside running the business. At first, business was booming and they eventually were looking to expand when they tragically lost their 10-year-old son Dalton. His death was quite devastating to the pair and they became rather negligent to their once successful business. Overwhelmed with how to continue on, they reach out to the legendary rescuer and chef Gordon Ramsay for help. When arriving, he's completely stunned by the fact that the owners built the lodge themselves and live in a cabin on the property. 2 years into the business, there was always a 2-hour wait for the restaurant, but ever since Dalton passed and they made changes, their customers began to dwindle. Ramsay is escorted to his room by a worker named Sam and finds an odd stain on his bedding. He thinks the room is depressing and the pillows are uninviting, though the view is really gorgeous. Pulling out the filter of the air conditioning unit, he finds it caked in dust, which completely disgusts him. Already having seen enough, Ramsay heads to the restaurant to test the food and orders homemade wings. It's very clear that what they are serving is not made from scratch and taken right out of the freezer. Talking to some locals, they feel like they've been pushed away by the owners who don't know how to deal with or take care of their patrons, but they are still willing to return. Taking Dave away to his car for a private chat, Ramsay gives him some constructive criticism and he was finally able to start doing his magic. Giving the lodge a huge makeover, from the rooms being made to look more rustic and given lighter colors on the wall, to the menu being completely revamped, the hotel was reborn. Upon the hotel's reopen, everyone was loving the new changes and the owners were extremely grateful. After the show aired, Dave and Didi embraced the changes Ramsay proposed and were excited for their future. Without a doubt, their passion was rekindled thanks to Ramsay, and the reviews on Yelp are mostly positive. They received 3.5 stars across 50 unique reviews after all. Many praised the decor and scenery, though the food and service quality seems to be quite mixed. Vienna Inn. In this episode of the show, Chef Ramsay visits Vienna Inn, which is located in Southbridge, Massachusetts. Being Austrian themed, the inn is owned and run by a very dysfunctional couple named Jonathan and Lisa Crack. Purchasing it back in 2000, it was rumored amongst the locals that the place was an adult hotel. With their investment going to waste due to the lack of profitability, Jonathan and Lisa called Gordon Ramsay for some guidance. Upon his arrival, he's very shocked by the fact that the staff need to pay for their own uniform, especially since it costs over $300 a piece. Admitting the hotel was her husband's idea, Lisa expresses that she was against it since they had 2 young children. Taken up to his room, Ramsay is served a boar meat appetizer which is not only under-seasoned, but the side of bread he's given is soggy. Disgusting. Ramsay points out that the room is dated and is confused by the fact that there's a locked closet. Supposedly, since Lisa has no room for clothes in her own room, she uses that closet since it's connected to her room. Disturbed by the unprofessionalism, the famous chef makes his way to the inn's restaurant to see if it's any better. The answer should be pretty obvious. Ordering some scallops, beer-battered sauerkraut, and vegetarian mushroom ravioli, everything came back tasting rancid and terrible. Absolutely offended by the disgusting meal he just ate, Ramsay tells the owners to close down since Jonathan's heart is clearly not in the business and Lisa's head is in the clouds. Going back to the rumors mentioned earlier, Ramsay caught word that the basement of the inn is used for wild adult parties, so he goes to investigate. What he finds is a wine cellar stocked with expensive wine and tons of minerals for spa treatment. Inspecting the kitchen, he finds food stored in the fridge that shouldn't be together and ingredients that are spoiled. Due to there being a whole slew of issues with his hotel, Ramsay admits that he's never met a couple so undeserving of his help. Despite this, in the end, Ramsay did give a makeover to the rooms and dining room, gave the staff better uniforms and a new system. Lisa and John were both very rude and ungrateful about the changes since they reverted everything straight after the Hotel Hell team left. They went back to the old menu and consequently, their reputation really didn't change at all. The reviews on Yelp were especially suspicious since they had a solid 4.5 stars despite what was shown in the episode. After the inn caught fire back in November of 2017, it suffered close to $75,000 in damages. Having no way to pay for repairs, they sold the business for $30,000 back in 2018. Well, that will be all for today's video here on the channel. I do hope you enjoyed, and if you did, be sure to drop a massive like down below and comment your thoughts. Subscribe for more content like this and turn on those sweet bell notifications for instant access to our content. Have a good one, guys.